Today we are going to learn about basics of synapse. We will understand what is a synapse and mainly two types of synapses. Now before we understand what is a synapse, we have to know typical morphology of a mammalian neuron. At one end of a neuron, there is branch-like structure called dendrite. There is a cell body in which nucleus is present, a wire-like structure called axon, and at the end of axon, there is axon terminus, button-like structures. The human brain contains 86 billion neurons that can communicate with each other. Now, this communication is made possible by synapses. Synapses are the junctions between presynaptic neurons that send the signals, and in the presynaptic neuron, there are some structures called presynaptic specializations, like axon termini, even axon. They make the synapse. And postsynaptic target cells actually receive the signals. These postsynaptic target cells could be another neuron, a muscle cell, or a gland cell. Now let's talk about presynaptic specializations. One example is axon termini. Specifically in motor neuron, these motor neurons make synapses with muscle at axon termini. Another example of presynaptic specialization is axon. In the central nervous system, synapses occur frequently all along an axon. These synapses are called in-passant synapses. As you can see, these axons are highly branched, not like the motor neuron axon. And all along the length of the axon, there are some button-like structure. These are not axon terminus, but called varicosity, which are loaded with synaptic vesicles. Now, postsynaptic target cells could be a neuron, and the dendrites and cell body are the main structure of the neuron that receive the signals. Remember one information that up to tens of thousands of neurons can make synapses with a single neuron. The yellow is the postsynaptic neuron that are covered with presynaptic nerve terminals. And you can see here that the dendrites and cell body are the main structure that receive the signal. The postsynaptic target cells could be a muscle cells. Then we call it neuromuscular junction, or in short NMJ. The axon terminus of motor neuron is also called motor end plate. If you zoom this structure, you will find the axon terminus is actually loaded with synaptic vesicles and make contacts with the muscle cell. Now there are mainly two different types of synapses are present. One is called electrical synapse, another is called chemical synapse. These synapses can be distinguished on the basis of their mechanism of transmission. In case of electrical synapse, in the gap junctions, there is a particular type of channel present called connection channels through which current flows, and by this way, communication occur. And in case of chemical synapse, there is synaptic vesicles that are loaded with neurotransmitters. Now, when the neurotransmitters are released from the presynaptic neuron, they bind with neurotransmitter receptor that are present in the postsynaptic neuron. These neurotransmitter receptors are like ion channels. When neurotransmitter bind with the neurotransmitter receptor, the channels open through which ions move, and by this way communication occurs. Now another information is synapses could be either excitatory or inhibitory. Excitatory synapse triggers action potential, and inhibitory synapse discourages action potential. See, the green dots are excitatory synapse and the red dots are inhibitory synapse. Basically, a protein called PSD95 is tagged with green fluorescent dye, and another protein called geoffrin is tagged with red fluorescent dye. These two proteins are called scaffolding proteins. They help in the clustering of neurotransmitter receptor. PSD95 specifically helps in the clustering of glutamate neurotransmitter receptor. Now, glutamate actually acts as excitatory neurotransmitter. And the geoffrin actually helps in the clustering of GABA neurotransmitter and glycine neurotransmitter. GABA means gamma aminobutyric acid, and glycine, these two neurotransmitter, acts as inhibitory neurotransmitter. When communication occurs through excitatory synapses, it causes a small depolarization in the postsynaptic membrane. Now, depolarization means when the membrane potential increases above the resting potential. And the resulting membrane potential change is called excitatory postsynaptic potential, or in short EPSP. And this depolarization occurs due to the opening of voltage-gated sodium channels through which sodium enters inside the neuron. And in many cases, voltage-gated calcium channels also open and through which calcium enters. And by the movement of these two ions inside the neuron, depolarization occurs. When communications occurs through this inhibitory synapse, it causes a small hyperpolarizations in the postsynaptic membrane. Now, hyperpolarization means when the membrane potential becomes lower than the resting potential. And the resulting membrane potential change is called inhibitory postsynaptic potential or IPSP. And this hyperpolarization occurs due to the opening of voltage-gated potassium channels through which potassium come out of the neuron and the opening of chloride channels through which chloride ions enter inside the neuron. Due to the movement of both these ions, the postsynaptic target cells become hyperpolarized, and that makes these postsynaptic target cells harder to depolarize. Hope this video will help you. If you have any doubt about this topic, you can write me in the comment section. Thank you for watching and always keep learning.